Well, here it is, another year and another Windbag Regatta. This regatta was the 26th edition, and it basically is the longest running race that the Huiva'a Kaukahi does. There were 10 participants in the Windbag Regatta this year. Some of them had sails, but not all of them wanted to race. So what happened was we had a carpool at 8:30, and soon later some of the participants wanted to go and paddle before everybody else. But the racers wanted to wait until the tide rose a little bit more. As you can see, the tide was pretty low and the wind picked up. So our plans were to start at 10:30. Here's one of our newest members, Ben, getting his kayak ready. He says next year he's gonna race, but he just wanted to check out what the Windbag Regatta was all about. Everybody had taken off the beach, but for these 5 brave sailors, we were going to brave the course, which ran from Hawaii Kai all the way to Kahala for a total of 4 miles. In Hawaii Kai, Dumpster Beach was our starting point, and we all drug our kayaks into the water, and before long, the race was on at about 10:15 in the morning. Everybody was taking off. But where was Steve? That's the question. I could see everybody else, but Steve was mysteriously missing. The winds were not exactly strong, but as you can see from our meter, we were going at about 4 miles per hour, which kind of coincides with somebody on a scupper paddling pretty strongly in a condition of currents. There was Steve. His strategy was to take the inside course, where all of us were trying to go around the shallow region around Kai'o'o by going out to sea. But Steve had a different idea, and I had to keep an eye on that guy. But you can see that the winds weren't still very strong yet. They were kind of light, but still strong enough for me to sail some. Kind of like about what somebody would be paddling at a nice pace on a scupper. As you were paddling over this shallow region, you had to look out for rocks and also sandbars that would easily stop your kayak. And if that happens, then you have to get out and pull your kayak over this shallow area, and your opponent would gain an advantage over you. So choosing your course, very important when you're first starting and actually throughout the entire course, especially in this condition where the tides weren't super high before we all got impatient and wanted to start the race. And the winds this time were not very strong. If you look outside, you can see the waves were in the category of 5 to 7 feet. And when you get to be that height, the waves sometimes crash over the shallow bank. So we had to be cautious about that. As we turned the corner past Kai'o'o, we saw that the winds were a little bit stronger and were not as blocked by the mountains. So, well, we look at the position of our kayaks. We were right about near the Kuli'o'o Peninsula, and you can see there's a small channel around it, and it looks very shallow with a lot of fingers that come all the way from the reef outside to the inside, which allowed some waves to come in. At this point, the waves were not a factor, but the wind was, and you can see the hull starting to lift. Going past Kuli'o'o Peninsula, you can see that the reef, again, structured with long channels that allowed surf to come in. But there are areas of deep zones and shallow zones. But the wind, again, was still fairly strong, even though it didn't look that way. Here I am kind of gauging the surf, because in the areas where it becomes deep in those channels, those big waves sometimes come rolling in. Right there we see a diver swimming in the reef, and that's how we knew we were close to the Kavaikui Beach Park. I was hoping that the other sailors saw him so that we didn't have a emergency situation of a diver getting run over by a kayak. But hopefully divers know that, most do at least, that when you're diving, even in a reef, you should have a marker so that people know that you are there. You can see that the hull speed got pretty high at this point, right at Kavaikui, ranging from 6 to 8 miles per hour, which turns out to be probably a lot stronger than anything that you can paddle on a scupper. Then we came up to Wailupi. Wailupi is, you can see some children there swimming in the channel. Wailupi is characterized with a deep channel that goes around the peninsula. It was dug for the sake of boating for the residents in that peninsula. At Wailupi, you have a problem with the wind being blocked. I think it might have to do with the coconut trees on Wailupi, but almost always the wind drops when you go around that point. But what doesn't drop is the roughness. And so in this area, you almost have to be on your toes there, watching out for the what we call clapetus or the rebound. Soon you pass Wailupi and you reach the area of the Wailai Golf Course. And as we look at the terrain there, again, the area becomes deep pretty fast in certain areas. And you have these big rocks that you have to be careful about not hitting. Not that it's going to damage your hull, but it could flip you over if you hit it in the wrong way. And then again, if you flip over, your chances of winning are very slim. In the distance, you can see the Kahala Hotel. Kahala Hotel represents the end of the race. So when you see it, you get an excited feeling that, hey, there's a chance that you might be able to win this one. It was at this point that I saw a small shark as well. And I've seen small sharks in this area right outside of the Wildlife Golf Course. For some reason, they like it in that area, but it was small and nothing to worry about. It really was trying to run away from me as fast as it could. Now the beach was visible and our destination, Kahala Beach. And when you go there, you have to be careful about people. A lot of children swimming around the beach, including adults. And as you're racing, you don't want to run into any of them. So you almost have to reduce your speed, or at least you have to be even more cautious as you approach the beach. At this point, you start removing your thigh straps. You start taking all the cords off from around your legs, making sure that none of your lines are entangled, because at any time you may have to jump off your kayak to prevent somebody from being injured. So in the Windbag Regatta, all you need is to have your hull touch the beach. So I touched the beach first, and here comes Sailor Steve with his formidable double yellow sails. And look at the wind, how it's just blowing. Not that far behind, a few minutes behind, was Terry with his paddle sail.
Oh, watch out, watch out.
Navigating between these two people doing a photo shoot. And then Stan, who we call the mystery sailor, because the last time we ran a practice run, I left him in back at Hawaii Kai, but then when I arrived at Kahala, he had already landed.
Nice one, Norm.
And here comes Norm with his new rig. Did pretty well. So that was it. Everybody made it to shore, and as you can see, I'm wearing the yellow hat. And I was the Windbag of the Year. Thank you for watching. Aloha.